That's a beautiful song. That song was written by my friends Jack Fowler and Christy Snow. And great song. You like music here, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, and you have Andy. I know. And wonderful practitioners. Thank you, Patty, for setting the tone today. If you like music, stick around for my workshop because it's going to be very musical and very fun. How many musicians here? How many people like to sing? Yeah, good. So, thank you for inviting me. And I think Sharon and I first walked through the doors here around 2001. We had been at Dr. David Walker's LACRS for many years, and then we moved to Santa Clarita. And at the time, our son Jesse was about 3, and our son Tyler was 2 months old. And it was quite a schlep to go down to Beverly Hills. So we started looking around, and one of the first places we came to was here. And I noticed, and Sharon and I noticed, as soon as we walked through the door, what a great sense of community was here. And Dennis was the minister at the time and good friend of mine. And of course, the very first time we went to Asilomar in 2005, within 10 minutes of arriving at Asilomar, we met Jim and Dorianne because their kids were going into Cosmic Kids at the same time our kids were going to Cosmic Kids. So I feel like we've had a long kind of passing relationship. For the 10 years between 2003 and 2013, I didn't get much of a chance to be here or see you because I was on the pulpit at NoHo for 504 Sundays out of 520 Sundays as the music director and then as the music minister. So I didn't get a chance to get around much. But I met a lot of you. Some of you have been in my choirs at Asilomar or know me from Asilomar. So it's great to be here. I was here last speaking a year ago on Mother's Day, which was also very impactful for Sharon and I because my mom is buried right up here at Mount Sinai off of Yosemite. So we got the opportunity to come to church on Mother's Day and then go visit my mom, which was great. And last weekend was Memorial Day, and you had my friend Sunshine Day here. And did you see where her wife, Sunny, just won this bikini contest on Facebook? She is a bodybuilder of amazing expertise. So last week was Memorial Day, which is traditionally the beginning of summer in our modern, usage of the holiday. But originally, Memorial Day was called Decoration Day. Did you know this? After the Civil War, it was a holiday for placing flowers on the war dead from the Civil War. And interestingly enough, I just found this out, it was also a big church holiday. Even though it was on a Monday, the last Monday in May, it was a big church holiday. And in those days, churches were full and stores were closed. Now it's kind of switched around. Nobody's in church on the Monday and the stores are open. Another way in which one of our holidays and its original meaning has been almost entirely reversed. But we need to never forget that our freedom isn't free, and always honor and remember those who fought for that freedom. And last September, I'm a musician. Last September I was on a tour in the People's Republic of China, and there is a palpable lack of the feeling of freedom in China. They may look like they're living in this century with us, and they may look like they have a very bustling modern economy, but I have to tell you, for those of us who live here and enjoy the way life is here, there is a palpable lack of a feeling of freedom in the People's Republic of China. And just on the surface of it, no Facebook, no Google, no Yahoo, no information that we take for granted every day. Yeah, I know. What? How would you? Yeah, freedom. We use that word freedom a lot, but what does that word really mean? Hey, here we go. Look at this. Freedom. The quality or state of not being coerced or constrained in one's choices or one's actions by fate, by necessity, or by circumstance. Not being constrained. Don't you hate that feeling of having no choice? We know as New Thought thinkers that we always have choice, but sometimes we feel like we don't have any choice. So, how can we tangibly experience freedom? I think a couple of simple ways that we all take for granted but use all the time is, well, if I had like a year's worth of my financial nut in my checking account, I might sleep okay tonight knowing that I was going to pay my rent or my mortgage this month without any fear of how I would do that. I would be in faith that I could pay my mortgage this month. Or if I was working if I was a baseball player, say, and I had a 5-year, no trade, no cut, choice is always mine to renew contract at work, then probably for at least the next couple of years, I might feel free from the fear of what I would do next during that time. But how do we have that same kind of freedom in our relationship with God? If you in a 12-step program, they always say fear is false evidence appearing real. When you really believe something maybe bad or negative is coming, I know in my experience, probably 99.9999% of the time, something that I'm really afraid is going to happen never comes to pass. You ever have that? They always say the rumination is worse than the confrontation. And for faith, I like the opposite of fear. Faith, I like finding answers in the heart. So we have, isn't that nice? We have false evidence appearing real, which I really think is true because so much of that is just not true. Of course, it's not the truth, might not even be the facts. But finding answers in the heart, we as New Thought thinkers, we know that God resides right here, finding answers in the heart. For me, faith means that I am consciously remembering that God and I are one. And fear is what I experience when I forget that God and I are one. When I believe that God and I are separate, and that's a mistake. That I have to do it all for myself, as Ricky Byers wrote in I Release. I have to do it all for myself. And that having to do it all for myself doesn't really feel that good. So money in the bank, long-term contract at work, that feels like freedom. How do I get that tangible in the bank feeling about my relationship with God? How do I create and nurture my faith so that I'm not living in fear and I can choose to live in freedom? Well, the answer to that, spiritual practice. Spiritual practice. This month's Science of Mind magazine, the daily guides were written by Reverend Patty Paris from San Diego, and her daily guide for May 17th was very much in alignment with what I believe and what I teach. She said, "The voice of the world is loud, and it can be overwhelming in our day-to-day activities. We're multitasking, on the go, high-achieving human beings who are doing more than we are being in any one moment. So we must consciously take the time to unplug, go within, turn off the noise, get still and quiet." And then she goes on to say, start right where you are. Don't try to go from 0 to 60 minutes of spiritual practice in one day. Don't set yourself up to fail. I think a lot of us do that. I've done that. Increase your time gradually, and you will experience the rewards of inner peace. So every minute that you spend receptive to the universe, you are depositing spiritual coins into your spiritual bank account at the B of M, Bank of Mind. Not the B of A, but maybe you have an account at B of A too, but B of M. Spiritual practice, in whatever way you choose to do it. You're always a choice. You have the freedom to decide. You can do it through meditation. We talked about that this morning. Or you can do it through spiritual mind treatment. You can do it walking in nature, gardening. I know John walks in nature, runs in nature every day. You can do it through gardening, playing an instrument, singing. I like to ride my motorcycle. I find often that I live in Santa Clarita and ride my motorcycle out San Francisco Canyon Road out to Lake Hughes. Reverend Colette Pondella has a ranch out there where she has wolves, the Freedom Ranch, and I ride out there all the time. And sometimes I get all the way out there and I can't remember a single thing I was thinking about, just enjoying the air, enjoying the feeling of being on the bike. It doesn't matter what you do for spiritual practice. What matters is that we create the time and the space to listen to the universe remind us how magnificent we are and what a blessing our life is, because our life is a blessing. The title of my talk today is Practice Makes It Practical. And Webster defines practical as available, usable, valuable in practice or action, capable of being turned to use. Usable. How many of you have experience in either the theater or television or film production? Okay. I worked on a soap opera for 5 years, and they changed the sets every day. A set piece, say it's like a bathroom, a set piece, if you have a sink and you can turn on the taps and water comes out and it drains, they call that practical. Usable. It's practical. You can use it. You might have a scene where a guy is shaving and the sink needs to work, but the shower and the toilet don't. So they're not practical. They're theoretical. They're not usable. But the sink is practical. Well, is your spirituality practical? Or is it still theoretical? Well, think about it. I mean, you're here. You're here in the Center for Spiritual Living. Chances are you already know everything you need to know about how the spiritual universe works. Because in Science of Mind, we only teach two things every single Sunday. God is all there is, and that includes the divinity of man, and that we live in a cause and effect universe. What we're always trying to do, though, as Science of Mind ministers, as ministers of religious science, is to inspire you to make it practical for yourself. Inspire you to find a way to make this teaching usable. Because we teach the same thing all the time. But you need to make it usable so that you can hear the message of the universe reminding you that you are magnificent and what a blessing your life is. Dr. Holmes writes, one of the great difficulties in the new order of thought is that we're likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. And then he goes on to say, there should be a conscious courting of the divine presence. There should be a conscious receptivity to it. We have to consciously do this. If you like the way your life is going in every aspect, you don't need to do a thing. But if you have any challenge, any discomfort, any place where you feel constrained, and you're not experiencing what you want to experience, then we consciously court the presence of the divine. And the way that we do that is through spiritual practice. Your vision statement here at Center for Spiritual Living is loving hearts, open minds. And my experience is you are living your vision statement. This is a loving place with open minds. My personal vision statement for teaching the science of mind is we don't need more information. We just need the inspiration and the willingness to go deeper. You know that book, Everything I Ever Needed to Learn, I Learned in Kindergarten? It's true. You know, be nice to people. It's true. But what do we need? We need the inspiration and the willingness to go deeper. And how do we do that? We do it through spiritual practice. That's what I teach, spiritual practice. Make it practical. Make it usable. And I'm here to tell you, if I can do it, anybody can do it. Because if I am not mindful, see, I wear my mala every day. It's not because I'm a Tibetan Buddhist. It's because when it jingles, it reminds me to be present. It reminds me to be mindful. Because if I'm not mindful and present every day, my head can be a jumble of busyness, self-judgment, unkind thoughts. You think when they put Reverend in front of your name, all that stuff stops? No. You just... But hopefully we're working on the tools to stay present and to stay mindful and to stay in this moment. I could easily be one of those people that Patty Paris describes. Always multitasking, always on the go, high achieving, doing more than I'm being in any moment. Anybody else? Thank God I thought it was just me. Spiritual practice is how we find and nurture our faith, how we find that feeling about our relationship with God. And I don't know about you, but I've always found it much harder to find my faith when I'm already in a crisis. The people breathing. You know what I'm talking about, right? You get that bill from the hospital for $80,000, or you get that letter from the IRS that they're putting a lien on your B of A account. And it always comes at 6 o'clock on a Friday night of a holiday weekend when you can't do anything about it until Tuesday morning, right? Or you're just getting on the airplane to go on that round-the-world tour, and your cell phone, that you get a message from Anthem, your health insurance was just canceled. You're about to get on a plane at LAX, and you're going to be gone for a month, and you don't have any health insurance. If you've been practicing your relationship with God, you'll make it through those kinds of situations knowing that it is all unfolding for your highest good, and you won't even need to know how, because you'll have faith that God knows how, because that's God's job, the how. Our job is to simply do what Patty told us this morning. What I'm telling you now. Sit in some silence. Walk in nature. Ride your motorcycle. Treat. I wonder if all this talk of spiritual practice makes some of you a little bit nervous and frustrated, because maybe you've tried it, but you gave up before you started having some tangible results. Anybody? Is it hard, right? You know the old joke. How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
Practice, practice, practice.
It's not a joke, though. But you know, it's funny that everybody knows that. Practice, practice, practice. David Letterman just signed off the other night. And before him, Jay Leno signed off. And before him, Johnny Carson signed off. Remember Johnny Carson's music director, Doc Severinsen? World-class musician. He's like 87 now, still going strong. He was recently talking at a master class, and he said, "My biggest obstacle in my trumpeting career was myself. Being lazy when I should have been practicing, doing things that were not helpful to being a trumpet player." And he went on to say, even if my level of experience, if I don't practice for one day, I hear the difference. If I don't practice for 2 days, the band hears the difference. And if I don't practice for 3 days, the audience hears the difference. I think he was quoting that last part of famous Polish composer Paderewski, who I think said the same thing. But, you know, I need to hear this reminder as much as anybody else. I can tell you as a musician and as a music director, there have been so many times as a music director that, you know, today's Sunday and then tomorrow morning would be Monday, and I would take out the music that was going to be played at the NoHo Art Center the next Sunday, and I would look at that piece of music as a bass player, because I led the band as a bass player, and I wouldn't be able to play it at all, let alone at a professional level. You know, Andy was playing a little help from my friends before. You know, one of my favorite Beatles songs that I have played in bands is Day Tripper. It's got that great guitar and bass lick, and it goes about 180 beats a minute. And bum ba da ba da 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 ba da ba da. Well, you know, thank you. In E, great. But when I look at it on a Monday morning and I've got to play it on the next Sunday, I might have to start at a tempo like this. Bum ba bum bum bi bum 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 bum. We start slowly. We go minute by minute. We don't have to know it. And here's the thing. I don't usually freak out when I can't play something on Monday morning, because I have years of experience of knowing that my practice will get me there by next Sunday, usually by Friday. But I know from years of experience. So I can relax into my into my practice regimen. I can do it in my spiritual regimen too, but I can relax into my practice regimen and know day by day that I'm getting there. I have verifiable results that I can remember, and the next time I pick up a piece of music that I can't play the first time, I go, 2 weeks ago it was Day Tripper, and Monday was not that good, and Tuesday was a little better, and Wednesday was pretty good. And this is the world of spiritual practice in microcosm. It's exactly the same thing. Practicing our conscious contact with God, doing it slowly and steadily until it becomes practical, something you can use, usable. Sharon and I have 2 sons. We have Tyler, who's 14, who's a very, very passionate drummer. And he plays drums all the time. And his passion and inspiration for the drums has propelled him very far, very quickly as a 14-year-old. And our 17-year-old, Jesse, is just about to graduate from high school this coming Saturday, and he'll be going to UC Berkeley in August to study theoretical physics. Woohoo! Yeah, it was kind of a surprise. I was actually sitting in the airport in Salt Lake City with Lane when he texted me to tell me that, and it was like, whoa, that was a surprise, because we thought he was going to go to community college next year. Not because there's anything about community college, but he goes to Academy of the Canyons in Valencia, and all the kids there go to high school in the morning and College of the Canyons in the afternoon. So he's already got about half of his college done. But here's the thing about Jesse. He did absolutely zero SAT prep, and in fact, he waited so long to sign up for the SATs that Sharon had to drive him all the way out to Lancaster to take the SATs because everything in Santa Clarita was already filled. He waltzed in with no preparation and scored 2290 out of 2400 with no preparation. Yes. Or did he? Maybe he'd actually been practicing what he needed to know for the SATs for a long time, little by little. And as Patty said, our talents are the universe's gifts to us, and how we use them are our gifts back to the universe. It's a symbiotic relationship. For Jesse, science, math, creative writing, they inspire him. He loves them. And so they may seem to come naturally to him, but they inspire him so he does well. And seeing that inspires me. And you know, I think every day our life is the SAT, the spiritual aptitude test. Right? And you know, some people, you like that? You may use it all this week. Some people are always ready for the spiritual aptitude test. Don't you know people like that? Never get ruffled. Anything that comes up, don't they drive you crazy? You know, never get nervous. Always know. Well, maybe they've just been practicing for a long time. Any one of us can do well on our spiritual aptitude test if we just practice. We just need the willingness and the inspiration to go deeper. Webster says that inspiration is the process of being mentally stimulated to do or feel something, especially to do something creative. A divine influence, inspiration. And willingness is being ready, eager, or prepared to do something. Being ready, eager, prepared to do something. So, what inspires you? What allows you to bring spirit in, to be inspired? When you want inspiration, or maybe you just want to have a good cry or feel your feelings deeply, what do? What movie or music do you listen to? What book do you pick up? When you want to get rid of all this busyness out here and just experience what it means to feel divinely human, what do? For me, when I want to be inspired and feel my emotions deeply, it's always the movie Coal Miner's Daughter. You know, starring Sissy Spacek as Loretta Lynn. There's this one great scene in the movie where she has her debut as a singer in a honky-tonk. Are you remembering the scene I'm talking about? In one 2-minute song, she goes right before our eyes from unknown housewife who likes to play the guitar and sing to country superstar in the making. When she's first introduced and she gets up meekly onto the stage, no one's really paying any attention to her. They're all talking and drinking, except her husband Doolittle. He's looking at everybody because he's the guy that put her there, you know. He's watching everything very carefully as her manager. And then she begins to sing ever so tentatively. And little by little, as she lets out that beautiful voice and lets out that beautiful spirit, people begin to listen and stop talking. And they start to really listen. It's like the creative process, the divine urge happening right in front of our eyes. And that's why it moves us, because we recognize that namaste, that divine in me and the divine in her, having that spiritual experience in that moment of letting it go and feeling freedom. I just watched it again the other day, and it had the same exact quantifiable effect on me. I cried with deep emotion. I felt both my humanity and my divinity in the same moment. Feeling your emotions deeply can be a great way to experience your divinity. My kids just make fun of me. I tear up and they just, oh, Dad. But that's practical spirituality, using something that inspires you to feel deeply, to go deeper, to reconnect and deepen your connection with spirit. Using something that touches us to be inspired, to listen to the voice of the universe, remind us of our magnificence, that's practical spirituality. That's something you can use to make your life better, to propel your spirituality forward and put more spiritual coin in the B of M, the bank of mind. What I'm asking us all to do is to consciously evolve and to evolve our consciousness at the same time through practical spirituality. My absolute favorite quote from Dr. Holmes is, "Principle is not bound by precedent," because it means that nothing that's happened before need have any bearing on what's happening now. But the full quote that most people don't actually hear is this: "We fail to realize that principle is not bound by precedent. We limit our faith to that which has already been accomplished. And so few miracles result. When through intuition, faith finds its proper place under divine law, there are no limitations, and what are called miraculous results follow." Cultivate your faith and miraculous results will follow. Easy to believe in something you've already seen. Easy to believe in something that happens every day. You know, Jesus said to Thomas, doubting Thomas, you're blessed because you hast believed, but what about those who have not seen me and still believe? You've seen me and you believe. What about those who have not seen these miracles and still believe? A few weeks ago, May 6th, was the 61st anniversary of the breaking of the 4-minute mile. In 1954, an Englishman named Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile with a time of 3 minutes, 59.4 seconds. Before that, runners had been attempting to break the 4-minute mile for several hundred years. The accurate stopwatch wasn't even invented until 1700. So verifiably, from 1700 to 1954, people were trying every day to break that 4-minute mile, and nobody could. And they thought that even if it was possible to do it, it would probably be fatally dangerous to try and do it. Your heart would just explode. Everyone believed that until they didn't. We in New Thought philosophy call that race consciousness. When so many people in the human race believe something, and therefore we as a race create that reality for ourselves. We hear those race consciousness ideas all the time. The economy's no good, there's no jobs, yada, yada. What do they say on Seinfeld? Yada, 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 yada. It's not the truth. Well, less than a year after Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, someone else did too. And today the world record sits at 3 minutes, 43.13 seconds. We've gained almost 17 seconds on that 4-minute mile in just 61 years. Literally hundreds of runners have broken the 4-minute mark since then, and some have done it while they're still in high school. We evolve. We evolve physically, and so does our consciousness. Or we say in New Thought, our consciousness evolves, and then our physical experience evolves. Anthony Robbins once said, the only impossible journey is the one that you don't start. The only impossible journey is the one that you never begin. And when you believe something is possible, it can be. I mean, what do people say? I'll believe it when I see it. It's not what we teach. We teach you'll see it when you believe it. Impossible is spelled exactly the same as I'm possible. The truth is, there's a miraculous expansion of the human condition happening every day. And it comes from people's inspiration. They see something, or they hear something, they have a reaction, they do something new, they create a new neural pathway, they need something, they create a brand new, never been seen widget. They say that necessity is the mother of invention, but I think the aha moment is the father of invention. So many inventors and innovators attribute that great idea to inspiration. Hey, take a look at this illustration here. You see this? Up here, like Samuel Morse, telegraph inventor, found his wife dead because her letter reached him too late. So he must have been going, how could I have gotten here sooner? Invented the telegraph. Let's see, this guy, Nick Woodman, the GoPro founder, went surfing and couldn't take pictures of himself. Invented GoPro. I love this one. Ingvar Kamprad. He founded IKEA. Couldn't fit a table into his car, so he took the legs off. 6 months last year, I was the step-in music minister at the Science of Mind Spiritual Center in Burbank at the Colony Theater. And there's an IKEA right next door. So the whole band, we would rehearse, and then we'd go and eat 99-cent breakfast or $1.99 breakfast at IKEA. From taking the legs off of a table and putting it in the back of the guy's car 50 years ago. Worldwide empire. Steve Jobs, Apple founder, wanted a computer interface as pretty as the calligraphy on his college campus posters. You know, and on and on and on and on. Innovation from intuition and inspiration. Who owns a dog? Do you know that every species of canine on the planet, on the world today, were selectively bred by humans from wolves who braved our ancient ancestors' campfires millennia ago? Learned about this on Cosmos. Neil deGrasse Tyson showed a great vignette about it on Cosmos. One wolf had a genetic mutation that enabled it to not be afraid of humans long enough to approach the fire. And because of that, it was rewarded with a bone, and it thought, this is a pretty good way to get dinner. And it stayed and became the first domesticated dog. The divine urge to evolve. The divine urge is welling up inside you too. Every time you have a longing, every time you have a wish, every time you have a great idea, divine urge is welling up inside you. According to scientists, the bumblebee's body is too heavy and its wingspan is too small. Aerodynamically, the bumblebee can't fly, but it doesn't know it, so it flies. When you know your limitations, you believe them, you live by them. When you don't know your limitations, you can go out and surprise yourself. The only limitations on a person are those that are self-imposed. Don't let what you hear on the news be your limitations. It's all sensationalism. In closing, I always try to come up with an acronym for words that we're talking about so that we can keep it practical and use it during the week. So how's this one? Inspire. Indwelling spirit provides infinite roads to evolution. Say that with me. Indwelling spirit provides infinite roads to evolution. Right. So what am I saying? We don't always need more information. Maybe we just need to allow ourselves to be inspired and go a little bit deeper. And we only need to evolve a little bit at a time for it to add up to a significant spiritual expansion in our lives. And how do we do it? Spiritual practice. Think you can't do it? I know that you can. I'll teach you how. I'm telling you in all honesty, if I can do this spiritual practice thing, anybody can. Practice makes it practical. Join me, won't you? Thank you. Namaste. Oh, I get by with a little help from my friends. Thank you. Thank you.